It's been more than 100 days now since Kremlin's military campaign began in Ukraine. In this video, we are going to see why Russia invaded Ukraine at the first place, what does Putin wants exactly, when this destructive war is going to end. Okay, let's get started. Before starting this video, I believe that by now you must be aware about Ukraine's geopolitical map. But still, for a quick reference, let me pull up a map and show you. Ukraine's come under Eastern Europe. It's the second largest country in Europe by area after Russia. Its capital is Kyiv. It has a total area about 6,03,628 kilometers square. It has a population of 44.5 million according to 2021 population census. As you can see in the map, Ukraine borders with Belarus, Russia to the north, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary to the west, Romania, Moldova to the southwest. Also, not to forget Crimea to the south as well. By the way, Crimea was the part of the Ukraine until 2014. But in the year 2014, Russia invaded Crimea for its own geopolitical interest. It itself is another story. That's why as of now, let's not get into that too much. As we can see in the picture, the Crimea is a peninsula. Crimea is surrounded by Black Sea. Coming to the Black Sea, it's the bridge between Asia and Europe. It has a huge strategic importance to Russia. Why? Because it's an important trade and transportation artery for Russia. By using this route only, Russia supplies weapons, artillery to the Middle East via Black Sea. As we know, Russia supplies ammunition and weapons to the Middle East. Apart from this, Black Sea is also one of the major oil and gas resources. To Sea of Azov. It's a shallow body of water that Ukraine shares with Russia. Access to the open sea, that is to the Black Sea. How? Through Kerch Strait, which connects Sea of Azov to the Black Sea. After Crimea's annexation in 2014, Russia gained control over both sides of the Kerch Strait. In May 2018, Putin opened a 12-mile long bridge over the Kerch Strait, which has also become the physical gateway to the Sea of Azov. To prevent the Ukrainian boats from passing under the bridge, Russia placed a cargo ship below it. As you can see in the map, Russia shares a very big border area with Ukraine that is about 2,295 kilometers long, which is quite long. This area is called a Donbas region, which mainly consists of two regions, that is Luhansk and Donetsk. In this eastern part of Ukraine, there are many Russian-speaking people are there. In fact, these people are not only similar in terms of language they speak, they also follow the same cultural as well as ethnical traits. Into today's scenario, this is how eastern part of the Ukraine looks like. As of today, that is 21st of June, most of the eastern Ukrainian cities were occupied by Russian troops. We recently saw in the news that most of the Severodonetsk has been already captured by Russian troops. By the way, Severodonetsk is one of the last strongholds of eastern Ukraine. Russian advances in eastern parts of the country has raised fears among the Ukrainian authorities. Now that you are aware about Ukraine's geopolitical map, it's easy to understand further. Why did Russia invade Ukraine at the first place? This war has started because of Ukraine's interest towards joining the NATO. This is one of the major reasons. Here NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This organization was started after the end of the Second World War, that is in the year 1949. Its basic agenda was to counter USSR, that is Soviet Union. Why? Because back then Soviet Union was promoting communist ideologies which were completely against of Western interest. Because they do believe and follow democracy, no? That's why. Here one must understand about Article 5, which states that collective defense. That is, if at all one NATO member country will be in trouble, then all the NATO countries will come to the defense of that country. Before it was having only 12 member states, but as of now NATO is having 30 member countries. As you may notice, there is a huge addition in the numbers. This is what led to the tension. Russian authorities stated that, and I quote, NATO has put its frontline forces on our borders. This expansion represents a serious provocation that reduces the level of mutual trust, and we have the right to ask against whom is this expansion intended, and what happened to the assurance our Western partners made after the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact. Here, if you remember the Warsaw Pact, that is how Russia itself dismantled it. Do you remember? But coming to NATO, it's still expanding towards east. It's called provocation. Right now, Finland and Sweden also filled the application in the interest of joining NATO. Anyways, Turkey rejected it. We will see what will happen in the future. Now you only think, if at all Ukraine will join NATO, then definitely US will install its military bases near Russian borders. Now how Russia will feel, that is why it is acting this much to protect its motherland. Russia is justified to defend its own country, and if such a big country is threatened by any country, so then definitely they will try to defend themselves. Some people may think that Ukraine is a sovereign country. It has all the rights to decide whether to join NATO or not. For those, I want you people have a look at these pictures. That is what happened to these Ukrainian cities today. This why, for God's sake, forget about this fancy word sovereignty and all. Today the people of Ukraine are afraid to get out from their own houses. They were hiding in the underground bunkers just to save their lives by continuous bombing and shelling. Their lives have been disrupted completely. What kind of sovereignty is this? Instead of fighting sovereignty, now it became fighting for survival. Regarding this, Russia had already warned to the Ukraine and its government, that is not to join NATO, and give in return that Ukraine will never become a member state of NATO. But current Ukrainian government didn't listen to the Russian demand at first. Now they were saying they won't join NATO. What has now realized about US provocation methodology. Now Russia doesn't want this. Now they want to destruct the military potential of Ukraine plus denazification. That is change of regime. Why? Because they don't want to face the war once again. They just want to safeguard their borders. How? Maybe by installing pro-Russian government. Behind all the wars, there is an existence of US and its allied forces, that is NATO, in the name of humanitarian. They will simply enter between two nations where the things could have been solved by diplomacy. Then also these people somehow enter into the war. They simply want to show their supremacy in the name of humanitarian and all. If at all these people were that much worried about humanitarian and all, then why shouldn't they have approved a aid to Sri Lanka, where the people are dying from hunger, there is no money for medicine. In short, the country's economy is about to collapse. By the way, the US and NATO entered into the Ukraine war in the name of humanity and to safeguard democracy. If that is the case, then Sri Lanka is also a democratic country. Then why they were not helping Sri Lankans? Now I tell you why they were not helping Sri Lankans. Because Sri Lanka is not a conflict zone. Coming to Ukraine, they were not helping. They were investing in the war by provoking Ukraine first, thereby selling the weapons to it. After all, it's a billion-dollar business for America. If you dig deep, the real reason for this conflict is US only. Because of NATO expansion towards East was the major concern for Russia. What I feel was Ukraine should have understood their own capabilities in terms of military and proceeded according to that. Here Russia knows very well that how to proceed, plus they had the military power. I feel they were a little dicey about where they stood, and as a result they lost so many lives. Now I tell you how this war may end. There is only one option left now, through peace talks. When some of the European leaders were engaging in these peace talks, why? Because of this war, world economy had crashed. Food crisis, Europe is facing huge energy crisis, that is oil prices have gone up. Coming to President Zelensky, he is making his appearances virtually by releasing short video clips saying that Ukraine is ours, we will fight till end and all. Really, I mean, at what cost? He is saying all these things after witnessing so much of destruction also. Now my question is how he is going to build an entire nation once again. Entire eastern part gone. So many other important port cities and all are gone. It's not a joke to build a country all of a sudden. It takes ages to build such things. It's not a weekend affair. Now let us imagine Zelensky won the war against Putin with the help of his so-called Western allies, that is European Union plus NATO. Then how he will rebuild his country? I mean, just have a look into these cities. Everything gone. As I said, it's not a joke or an easy task to rebuild or restructure the entire nation altogether. Therefore, what I feel is Zelensky should agree to all the conditions right away, and he has to agree for the peace deal, because war comes with a cost. It's not a wise decision to choose a war over a peace talks. Okay, so I hope it was informative. Thank you very much for watching it. See you again soon. Bye for now.